Let's win this game. Skol Vikings.
790 AM, 94.1 FM, KFGO.com, the KFGO mobile app. Follow 790 KFGO on Twitter. Like the KFGO Morning Crew on Facebook.
Minnesota Vikings beat reporter Eric Smith joining us here on the KFGO Morning Crew. Good morning to you, Eric.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we pulled out another win.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
None of them have been real pretty, have they?
No, it's been a weird year. I was kind of talking with a coworker last night after the game. We were kind of going through the season so far, 12 games in, and it's just been a wild year. You know, you start 1-5, and there's not much hope, and then you kind of build it up a little bit and get a win here or there, and all of a sudden you're sitting at 6-6 with 4 games left, and you're in the playoffs if the season ended today. So it's been a roller coaster ride, and who knows what the final 4 games are going to entail.
Eric, as folks, you need to follow Eric Smith, Eric L. Smith on Twitter, Minnesota Vikings beat reporter, as he tweeted out, and he was just mentioning the Vikings started the season in a 1-5 hole. They are now the 7th seed in the NFC. They evened up their record at 6-6. Where do you give for pulling out of that hole? Is it a Dalvin Cook thing? Is it a Kirk Cousins thing? Or does it go into like a Gary Kubiak offense thing? Or am I missing the defense? From where you sit, what has been the biggest change from going 1-5 to now 6-6, Eric Smith?
Yeah, I think you have to give credit to everyone. I mean, it's not like one player alone can pull a team from 1-5 to 6-6. Certainly, in November and then yesterday, there's been some good performances. Obviously, Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins have played well on defense. On offense. On defense, Eric Kendricks, even though he did not play yesterday, has played superb all season. Harrison Smith has played well. But, there's young guys that have stepped up, DJ Wanham and Jeff Gladney. Ezra Cleveland has played well along the offensive line. But I think you also have to give some credit to the coaching staff and Mike Zimmer. I mean, at 1-5, they needed to stay the course and kind of get things going in the right direction, and they did as well. So when you have a turnaround like we've had, I think everyone gets some credit, but you also have to also realize you're only 6-6, and there's still plenty of room for improvement as well.
Eric, I hate to run down the laundry list, but I mean, you know what we're talking about with the Minnesota Vikings when it comes to special teams. And it seems like every week, 1 week it was some poor snapping. Maybe that was back in the Bears game. We get a new long snapper. There have been some penalties, Chris Boyd on returns. And the next thing, it's Dan Bailey. Is it all strictly a personnel issue, or is it because you hear people on Twitter saying that the special teams coach not putting the right people in the right position? The special teams have been just a hot mess, Eric. Yeah,
it hasn't been pretty, and people know that. It's probably been a combination of a bunch of things. The majority of the players that are on special teams are young players who did not have a preseason or really an off season. It was virtual, so they're kind of trying to play catch up as we go. I think everyone's aware that the special teams have been a little bit up and down as the season's gone along, and Coach Zimmer has said it. He's like, we need to fix that because there's going to be times where that could maybe cost us a game, and we saw that again yesterday. When you miss 2 extra points and you miss a field goal, you're fortunate to win. And thankfully the Vikings defense got the safety, which kind of canceled out the 2 missed extra points. But yeah, much like the season, it feels like special teams is also a roller coaster ride within itself. So, yeah, that unit probably needs to be better down the stretch as well.
We're visiting with Eric Smith, Vikings beat reporter. Let's talk about Dan Bailey. Last year, he hit a major slump, whereas all of us Vikings fans were keeping our fingers crossed anytime he was kicking an extra point. Seemed to iron things out, has been having a good season. Yesterday was an off day. Do you think it's something that it just gets in his head, or what do you suppose is going on there?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I know Coach Zimmer was asked about that after the game, and he said that, he has full confidence in Dan, and it's so hard to tell during the game kind of what goes on because then you have to move on to the next play. And I'm kind of the same way. I mean, honestly, I didn't get great looks at what happened, and I haven't gone back yet and watched the tape. I feel like I sound like a player or a coach when I say that, but that's the honest truth. I haven't looked at it too close. Dan's a veteran. He's had a pretty successful career. Maybe yesterday was just kind of a weird day, but it's certainly, him and everyone on special teams is going to want to be better than they were yesterday.
Yeah, well, he came through and he ended up getting the win for us, so that's the main point there. Is this Vikings team, do we have the talent? Is this Vikings team good enough to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. There's plenty of talent along the roster, but I don't think talent is the problem. I think it's being consistent. And if you go to Vikings.com, I actually wrote about this for the Monday mailbag this morning. There was a fan that wrote in that asked, how do we stay consistent down the stretch? And I responded, I don't think we need to stay consistent. The Vikings need to get consistent because, the offense sputtered a little bit and then turned it on and then sputtered some more. The defense played well at times. We talked about special teams. The Vikings have the talent and the pieces to certainly make the playoffs, and that's a credit to them for, being in a position, a playoff position as of now. But if you get to the playoffs, you can't be missing kicks and, giving up early scoring drives and, committing more turnovers on offense. I mean, it's been 2 games in a row now where the opposing team has scored when the Vikings offense is on the field. That can't happen in the postseason. So, if the Vikings get in, and it's going to be kind of a wild Final 4 games, they're going to need to play, much, much better than they have, certainly yesterday and, certainly through the first 12 games.
Yeah, and coming up this Sunday, taking on Tampa, Tom Brady at the helm there. How do you expect that game to be shaping up?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good measuring stick for the Vikings because, when they climb back to 6-6, I believe that Green Bay is the only team they've beaten with a winning record. Tampa Bay has that. They're 7-5. They're coming off a bye. And a lot of people have probably looked more at Tampa Bay this season because of Tom Brady and the national attention. And the Vikings have kind of flown under the radar, especially when you start 1-5. People kind of write you off. So I think a lot of people are going to be watching this game to see how the Vikings measure up. And if they can win this one, then I think people are going to be like, okay, well, maybe we should, take them a little more seriously for the playoffs. But again, they're just going to have to be consistent and, it's always tough to beat Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, let's get an early lead and keep that lead. These final moment games, the final minutes to get these wins, it's not like it's an Aaron Rodgers who can pull off those kinds of wins. It's nerve-wracking for us Vikings fans.
Yeah. Trust me, when you're trying to write about the game and it doesn't, it's not decided until the final second, it's tough for me to write about it too. I think 8 of the 12 games this year have been decided by 8 points or less.
Yeah. It's been tough and a couple of 1-point losses. All right, Eric, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Okay, guys, thanks for having me.
You bet. You take care. That's Minnesota Vikings beat reporter Eric Smith joining us here on the KFGO Morning Crew.